Hey Blessed fam, it's your girl Bella. Welcome back to my channel. Excuse the lighting. It is like gloom and doom outside. Okay, no doom, but lots of gloom outside. But to make the gloom better, this is Miss Mia. Why do these dogs not want to be held when I want to help? Miss Mia, that's not nice. She's a Frenchie. She is the dog of the day who I'm dog sitting. But let me put her down because let's talk about books that BOOKTOK caused me to read. This year, I have read a total of 83 books so far, and 26 of those books have been inspired specifically by BOOKTOK. BOOKTOK, Bookstagram, BooktUbe, I've heard of these books on all these platforms, but BOOKTOK specifically has promoted these titles, and so I want to rank them from least favorite to favorite and let you all know my personal scoop of what I think are the best books that BOOKTOK has recommended. I will say that out of these 26 books, I've read 25 of them this year. One of them I read last year, and I obviously have not read every single book on BOOKTOK, but these are just the ones that I have read this year specifically. Alright, so I'm going to order these books from least to greatest, and I also want to go over my rating scale with you guys because I will give you all a very brief summary of the book as well as what I rated the book. So for me, a 5-star book means that I love it. I loved the entire ride and I loved every single aspect about that book. A 4-star book means it was very enjoyable. A 3-star book, she was alright. A 2-star book, absolutely not. Not the worst thing I've ever read, but pretty close to it. And a 1-star book needs to be tossed into the mother freaking bonfire, okay? Let's get started. So the worst book that I've ever read due to BOOKTOK was Where the Crawdads Sing. I thought this book was so boring. I read this book both physically and on audio. I was falling asleep. I was bored out of my mind. This book is about some girl who lives in a marsh and she's accused of a crime, and at the end there's like a court case. It was boring as heck, and for the longest amount of time I thought the book was taking place in South Africa, and the whole time it was taking place in North Carolina. The second worst book I've read, and I give that book 1 star. The next book and another 1 star is Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. I have talked at length about how much I dislike this book twice. If you've watched my video where I read 4 overhyped romances, which I will link down below, I talked about this book at length, but this book is about our main character who's a scientist. She falls in love with another scientist, whatever. Tropes in this are, I don't even know, this book just sucked. If you like The Love Hypothesis, this is like a worse version of The Love Hypothesis. I can't even like really talk about this book because for one, I have an ear infection in my left ear, and like thinking about this book is bothering my ear infection. But I gave the book 1 star. This next batch of books I gave 2 stars. So the next book is November 9th by Colleen Hoover. I gave this book 2 stars. This book was awful. Another book that I listened to on audio and I kept falling asleep during. I just thought that the relationship between both our characters was horrible. It was based off of one of them doing something awful to the other one and pretty much feeling sorry for her. And then when I think about this book, I want to like spoil parts of it because the book is awful and no one should read it, but I'm not going to spoil it. I'll just let you know that out of all of Colleen Hoover's books that I've read, this was the very worst one. I just think the premise of the relationship was so bad. I thought that the hero was awful, and I hate that Colleen Hoover mentions tropes such as like insta-love and things like that people hate. She mentions it in the book and then makes the book include those tropes that people hate knowingly. Like, that was weird. The next book is Bee Tree by Emily Henry, another book that I fell asleep constantly reading. Like, this is my first Emily Henry book that I've read, and I just thought it was so boring. It's not a beach read. It's about 2 authors who switch genres and write in the other author's genre. They get in a relationship eventually. There's lots of emotional family things brought up. I just thought this book was boring and it wasn't romantic at all, and I would never want to read this book on the beach. I would be depressed. The next book is Dial A for Aunties. I was so excited to read this book because it was pitched as like a fun, cozy mystery. This book was just honestly pretty dumb. I gave this book 2 stars as well. It was just dumb. Like, we have a mom, 3 aunties, and a niece. The niece ends up committing a crime on accident. She kills somebody on accident, and then the aunties and her mom were helping her cover it up. And the book was just a whole bunch of nonsense. The entire book also took place in either 1 day or 2 days. And I like, personal pet peeve, but I don't like books that take place in 1 day or in 1 weekend. It's just like, how can all this stuff happen in 24 hours? It's not possible. I thought this book was unrealistic, but unrealistic to the point that it was also just like goofy and unenjoyable. The next book is Shatter Me, the first book in the Shatter Me series. I feel so bad when I talk about this book because my friend recommended it, but I gave this book 2 stars as well. I think maybe if I was in like middle school I would have enjoyed this book more, but it was just boring. It was fast, which was good, but I hated the way it was written. It's written in like a very like whimsical style, I guess. It's about our main character Julie Juliet who has a touch that is like, that like hurts people. She has a very powerful touch. If she touches people, she can like hurt them or kill them. So she's pretty much in exile, imprisoned, and then she eventually gets out of prison and we're seeing her story. And I just thought it was kind of goofy. And the last line of the book is something along the lines of, now I have my purple suit. And I'm not joking. Like, this book was just goofy, but it was honestly better than all the other books that I listed. So that says a lot. The next book is Love in Other Words by Christina Henry. This is my second Christina Henry book, and I just didn't enjoy it that much, honestly. What's up, boo? Hey, baby. Hey, boo-boo. Hey, boo-boo. Come here. I just did not enjoy this book. I felt like this is a second chance romance, and I don't know. This book was depressing. When you find out like why they end up not being together anymore, it is literally so depressing. And I don't want to think about this book. Just no. It was a 2-star for me. The next book is Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn, my first and only Gillian Flynn that I've read before. This book was short, yet it still took me some time to read. Like, it was boring despite the fact that a lot was going on. And it was also just like gross. So it's really just about like family trauma, abuse from like a parent, and some really gross fetishes. And although this wasn't the worst thing I've ever read, it was pretty close to it. The next book is actually The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Originally I gave this book 3 stars, but I actually lowered my rating to 2. I just really disliked this book, and I actually am a Taylor Jenkins Reid fan, but this is my least favorite book by her. I hate this book. This book is about our main character Evelyn, who she is like a Hollywood actress. She's a socialite. She's also like a bombshell sex symbol, and we're going through her life with each of her 7 husbands. I like the way the book is like broken down like by husband, but I hated her true love interest. Her main love interest was so awful. And on top of that, there's a scene where a black man is killed, and I just felt like that was very poorly written. And I wish that scene had not been in the book because it was like actually awful. Okay, so the next batch of books are gonna all be 3 stars for me. The next one is Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. This book came out this year. This book is about our main character Kenna, who was in prison, but at the beginning of the book do you hear all the noises? Yeah. This book's about our main character Kenna, who was in prison, and she's in prison, and at the very beginning of the book she actually gets out of prison, and we find out that she has a daughter, and she's trying to get back with her daughter because pretty much all of her parental ties have been taken away. And you just see like all these like pretty much pathetic attempts of her trying to see her daughter. Like, the way she was trying was pathetic. She would try, and then she would cry, and she would try, and she would cry, but like the attempts weren't that good. And I really just hate how a lot of Colleen Hoover's heroines just cry all day long. I didn't think the romance was that believable either. I don't know, it just wasn't a great book in my opinion. This is my first Colleen Hoover book that I read too. The next book was The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. This book was so disappointing to me because I had been wanting to read this book for a long time, and I had actually been on hold in my library for months to read this book. So imagine me getting the book, and the book is just alright. Like, it was just mediocre. This book has fake dating, which I've came to learn I really dislike fake dating. Unless it's like YA and they're in high school, I just don't see why grown adults are fake dating. But it's like a hate to love fake dating situation. Workplace, enemies, not really enemies, but kind of enemies. So our main character needs to go to a wedding, and of course out of all the people she could go with, she goes with her workplace enemy, and they fake date to go to her sister's wedding. It's just like, how realistic is it that you hate somebody and then you fake date them? Like, when would that happen in real life? Like, fake dating is just really childish to me, so I'm not a fan of that trope. The next book is The Midnight Library. This book wasn't like awful. It's kind of like a self-help kind of book because it has like a moral aspect, but it's in like a novel format. So this book is about a woman who, I don't know if she died or she's about to die, but she doesn't die. She's about to die, but she gets to like go through like this library and see like all the different ways that her life could have played out had she chosen different paths. And then she comes to find out that like the path that she's on is the right path. Like, all the decisions she's made have been for the right reason. And I thought this book was good on like a moral aspect. It just wasn't like my type of book. There's actually nothing wrong with this book, to be honest. I think it's alright. That's why I gave it a 3. I would recommend this book over some other 3 stars that are in this category because there's nothing wrong with the book. It's not my type of book. The next book is The Love Hypothesis, another Ali Hazelwood. This book is again about 2 scientists who who get together. It's kind of like enemies to lovers because they think they're enemies, but well, the heroine thinks they're enemies and the hero knows that he likes her, and the heroine is like dumb and doesn't realize that the hero likes her, like stupid stuff like that. It's kind of the same way that Love on the Brain was. Both of them are the exact same book, but Love on the Brain is just worse. But this book follows those two characters. There's some fake dating involved. There's some like silly antics involved. I thought the book was fine. I think if you're gonna read any Ali Hazelwood, I would read that one. I think it is her best work and it's her first work, but she's not an author that I enjoy, honestly. The next book is Confess by Colin Hoover. I listened to this on audio, and originally I gave this book 4 stars. I think I was drunk. But no, I wasn't drunk. I think I just enjoyed the audio experience, but when I think about it overall, it definitely was like a 3-star romance because it's hard for me to remember what the book is about. So a book cannot get 4 stars for me and I can barely remember what it's about. But it's about our main character who also has a daughter. Colin Hoover likes children in stories that can't be with their mothers. But there's a daughter involved. The mom can't see her daughter. She doesn't have custody. She meets with this guy. I don't remember what the book is about, you know? I thought it was cool. It had some mixed media in it, and there's like confessions that are written in the book that were actually submitted by real people, like real Colin Hoover fans. So I thought that aspect was actually really cool. But yeah, that's another one. Next one is Book Lovers. I actually originally gave this book 4 stars as well, but I think it's really a 3-star for me. Another Emily Henry. This one is about our heroine Nora, who is going on a trip with her younger sister, and then she meets a guy that she knows from the past. It's like kind of enemies to lovers, but not really because they're enemies for like one encounter and then they're not enemies anymore. But it's just like her relationship with this guy that she's meeting, her relationship with her sister. The book was okay. Like, it wasn't bad by any means. I wasn't a big fan of like the sister dynamic because I felt like it was a little bit childish at times, but I don't think this book was bad by any means. I definitely liked it more than Beach Read. And Emily Henry, her romances are more like they're more like women's fiction than they are like romances. So if you're someone who you're not a big romance fan, I think Emily Henry would be a good person to read because her books aren't way too romance heavy. And I can't even think of any tropes in this book besides like a small town. This takes place, I think, in Asheville, North Carolina. But yeah, that was another one. The next book is It Happened One Summer. Yeah, I gave this book 3 stars. It's by Tessa Bailey. This book I also talked about in my 4 overhyped romances book. Don't fall, girl. Do you want to get down? I don't know what this gal wants, y'all. Oh, 1 second. I'm about to get another dog. This book follows our main character, Piper, who is like a rich socialite. She is a rich social media influencer, and she throws this party. Her dad gets mad at her, and she ends up having to go to this small town to, you know, learn how to be a self-sufficient adult. And from there, she meets our hero, Brendan. This is like a Grumpy Sunshine book. Grumpy Sunshine, small town. Those are the main tropes in this book. I thought this book was fine, but the way that this book is hyped, I was very disappointed. I think I gave this book 3.5 stars officially, which is why it's on like the higher end of my 3 stars. But this book was just so hyped. Like, I could not wait to read it. And then when I read it, it just wasn't that good. It was just okay. And also the romance scenes were so cringy to me. I don't know how people like those smut scenes. They were disturbing, but to each their own, I suppose. And then the last 3-star book is 7 Days in June. This is another second chance romance, friends to lovers sort of book. This book follows our main character. She suffers from like really bad migraines. Pretty much, she falls in love with this guy. They're both very good codependent on each other for like a week in high school, and then they get torn apart. We don't know why. And then they meet up like 7 years later, and then they have, you know, another romance, the second chance romance. But this book was fine. Again, it's another book that I was just like very, very excited to read because of how hyped it was. And then that kind of made me a little bit disappointed when I actually did read it, but not a bad book by any means. Now for my 4 stars. The first 4-star I have is I'm Glad My Mom by Jeanette McCurdy. I just hate saying that title because I don't want to speak that upon myself. But this was a really good book. This was actually a memoir, the only nonfiction book on here. It's Jeanette McCurdy's autobiography. I'm sure you've all heard about it. It's about her relationship with her mom and how her mom pretty much pushed her to be an actress. Her mom encouraged her to have eating disorders. There's a lot of trigger warnings in this book. I just thought it was a powerful book because we don't have like many child celebrity memoirs talking about what it's really like to be a child star stars, so I thought this book was really important, and yeah, pretty good book. The next book is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. I actually did like this book. This book is a workplace enemies to lovers, and I feel like it's a more true enemies to lovers because they were enemies the whole book. Although you do find out that the guy is pretty much sort of creepily obsessed with the girl the whole book, which you will find out by like the very last chapter. Something kind of odd happens, but it does have more of an enemies to lovers vibe, and this book actually made me like the enemies to lovers trope a lot. It's also a workplace romance. I love office romance. Maybe because I work in the office, I like an office romance. I don't know. Also, Grumpy Sunshine. That's another trope in here. I thought this book was pretty good. Like, I haven't watched the movie. I need to. I know this is the only Sally Thorne book that's popular. She's kind of known as a one-hit wonder. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this book, and check it out. The next book is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I freaking love this book. This book is like a music book. It's about a band and an independent artist called Daisy Jones, and they work on an album together, and I just love the format that this book was written, and it's written as if it's like an interview because it is an interview, so you have like character names and they're just like popping up and saying things, and I just loved it. This book was so good. The only reason why it has 4 stars not 5 is because there was a tiny like period where I was getting a teensy bit bored, like, but it was so small because it still got 4 stars out of me. But I enjoyed this book thoroughly. If you like books that have to do with music, and if you like books written in like an interview format, I do not see why you would not enjoy this one. The next book is The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. I freaking love this book. This book got like a 4.5 out of me, like dang near a 5, but I love this book. It is a classic enemies to lovers. What else is it? Sort of fake dating. This fake dating wasn't as childish because, okay, let me tell you the premise of the book. This book is about our hero and heroine who are forced to go on a honeymoon together because their siblings just got married and their siblings get sick, so they can't take the honeymoon, so the hero and heroine take the honeymoon instead. And they're enemies originally, but they have to like share a bed together. They have to like fake date just so that they can go on the trip, but it's not like fake dating in the way that other enemies to lovers fake dating stories go. Like, this was done a lot better in my opinion. They're on vacation, which I love. This is a great vacation, chilling by the pool or at the beach read. Like, I just love this book. It's a classic rom-com. It was so funny. Like, I actually literally laughed out loud while reading this book, and I just enjoyed it. Okay, I enjoyed it. And our last 4 books are all 5 stars for me. So next we have Verity by Colleen Hoover. This is my favorite Colleen Hoover book and the only Colleen Hoover book that got a 5-star out of me. This book is about Verity, who is an artist who gets into a car crash and she's in a coma, so she cannot finish her very important series. So what happens is another author comes in and is finishing the series for Verity, but she has to look through Verity's manuscripts to like match the writing style, and she ends up finding out a bunch of crazy things about Verity because Verity has like kind of like a autobiography of herself that our main character ends up finding and reading. And there's also a romance going on between the new author and Verity's husband, so there is some cheating going on, but it ain't that bad. It ain't that bad. If you hate cheating in books, if you just cannot stand it, zero cannot stand it, then you probably won't read this. But it's not a bad cheating, especially when you figure out what Verity was doing. Oh, you ain't gonna care. You ain't gonna care. But technically this is a romance, but it's really a thriller. It just has some romantic elements that aren't romantic, okay? This book has like a sick edge to it that kind of gives me like Gillian Flynn Sharp Objects vibes, but not as sick and twisted and disgusting as that book was. The next book is the second book in the Finley Donovan series. I think it's Finley Donovan Knocks Dead? Is that what it's called? I don't know. It's up here on screen. I freaking love this book. This is a cozy mystery following Finley Donovan. She's a single mother of 2. She's also an author. And in the first book, you are following her. She's meeting up with her agent. She's talking about the book that she's trying to write, which is pretty much like a thriller book. And someone overhears her and thinks she's a hit woman, so she gives her number to like do a hit on her husband. And that happens in the first book. The second book is a continuation of the series, so I don't really want to say anything about the second book because it'll spoil the first book. But the first book I gave 4 stars. This one I gave 5 stars. Like, it was so freaking good. I finished this book in one sitting. Like, it was just so fun. I loved it. I love the hijinks, I love the extraness. I just thought it was so enjoyable to read. So now we have our last two books, which it was hard for me to pick which one I wanted to be number one. But coming in at number two is To All the Boys I've Loved Before. This is a hard one for me because this book actually got me back into reading. Y'all don't know, I was in a reading slump for 8 years. I read The Grapes of Wrath my sophomore year in honors English, and from there I freaking hated books. And that's where my 1 star of It Needs to Go Into a Bonfire came from, because I threw that book in a bonfire at the end of my senior year. I freaking hated that book. It put me in an 8-year reading slump and I did not like reading anymore. And this book, To All the Boys I've Loved Before, got me back into reading. This is a YA romance about our main character, Laura Jean, and our hero, Peter Kavinsky. And it's just about their romance. They're in high school, so they're just navigating high school. It's about family, it's about food, it's about friends, it's about everything. I freaking love this book. There's 3 books in the series, and these are the type of romances that I love. They're just so pure and sweet and gushy, and this book made me cry, made me happy, gave me all the emotions, all the feels, and it will forever have a very, very special place in my heart. And then the number 1 book that I've ever read due to BOOKTOK is The Silent Patient. This book is a slow burn. Some people may call it boring. I did not find it boring in any way. This book is about a lady who goes home one day and shoots her husband in the face like 7 times. And then she ends up going to like a rehab center, and she never speaks for like 10 years or some amount of years. They have never got her to speak a single word since she shoots her husband in the face. And we have our psychoanalyst going in, and he's going in and trying to like get her to talk about what happened, and we're just seeing how that goes. I love the writing style. I just love like simple writing sometimes, like not convoluted, not over the top, and the writing style was just simple and neat, and I feel like it helped with the story to push it along. Like, I really enjoyed it. This is a thriller. It's a psychological thriller. This is the first book where I saw the narration style of an unreliable narrator, and I realized how powerful that narrator is, and how much I enjoy unreliable narrators. So this book, love it, absolutely 5 stars, and is the best book that I've read due to BOOKTOK. So, oh my gosh, this girl just farted, and she hasn't ate all day, so I don't know why it stinks. Oh my gosh, Mia, freaking stink. Tell the camera you stink. You stink. Why you fart like that? Why'd you fart like that? That was not nice. So those are the 26 books that BOOKTOK caused me to read. At the end of the day, I'm very, very happy that I read all of these books, because I got a couple of 4s and 5s out of here. I got the book that literally caused me to not be in a reading slump anymore from this list of books. So definitely a good compilation. I would say I do trust BOOKTOK for book recommendations. Obviously some I don't trust. Like, if I see Colin Hoover's name, unless she writes another thriller, I'm not gonna read it. But there are some books on here that I did thoroughly enjoy, and I will continue to use BOOKTOK for some book recommendations. I think overall, the fact that I found some of my favorite books and they were highly recommended on BOOKTOK says a lot. So definitely not regretting it. Definitely love it. Let me know in the comment section below, what is the best book you've ever read due to BOOKTOK, Bookstagram, BookTube, any of them? I'm so curious, and maybe if I get enough answers, I will make a video reading all those books and letting you all know what I think about them. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Say bye, Mia. Say bye, Mia. All right, bye guys. See you in my next video.